السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف خلق الله سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وصحبه الأخيار المنتجبين وعلى جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، يقول الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين. O believers, stand firm for justice as witnesses for God, even if it is against yourselves, your parents, or close relatives. What I'll try, inshallah, to talk about today is what is really the position of Islam towards what might be called as individualism, prioritizing one's own interests over the collective interest, over the interest of the society, over the interest of the mission, the message. First, it is important to start from highlighting that the Quran does expect people to take care of themselves and to look after themselves. In many places, the Quran would say, ittaqullah, ittaqullah, have taqwa, have taqwa. In other places in the Quran, Allah says, وَكُلُّكُمْ آتِيهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَرْدًا. Every single person of you will be presented as an individual before God. In other places, God says, for example, in chapter 66, verse number 6, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. O you who believe, protect yourselves from a fire whose fuel is people and stones. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us you need to look after yourself. You need to make sure that you are saved. In the Quran also another verse says, فَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةَ فَقَدْ فَازَ. The one who is taken away from the hellfire and is entered to the paradise, this person is victorious. This person is winning. So there is an individual here. But in that same verse that I recited, which I didn't continue, Allah says, قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا. Not just protect yourselves from the hellfire. Make sure you protect your families as well, those close to you. So Allah is saying that we have a responsibility actually towards the people around us, so that we save them as well, so that we ensure that they too are journeying towards God properly. This is where we have a responsibility towards our children, for example, our brothers, our sisters, people in the community, that we need to make sure that we help them in their journey towards God. It's not about only myself. You need to support each other. You need to protect each other from any displeasure of God. So this is one important matter. And similarly in the matters of dunya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also talks about those who believed. He says in chapter 59, verse number 9, وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. They give preference to others over themselves, even though they may be in need. In matters of dunya, in the things that are going to perish, that are not going to live, sacrifice. Give. Sacrifice. It's not going to stay. Sell it for the sake of that which is going to stay forever. That's what the companions of Hussein did. They sold the things that are cheap for the sake of what is eternally awaiting for them. Others did the opposite. Others, they lost in their trade. They sold the eternity, the eternal salvation, for the sake of some pleasures that are going to be enjoyed for a year or 2 or 3. And this is what ended up happening. Some of them did not even complete 3 or 4 years of the enjoyment of this world after the crimes they committed against Imam Hussein and his family. So Allah is saying, these people, the mu'mineen, they sacrifice things. They favor others over themselves when it comes to matters of dunya, matters of material world, the spiritual-less world. In order to make it for the sake of God, they give to others. It is narrated that Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, the Holy Messenger of God, said, Al-khalqu kulluhum iyalullah. that the people, the creation, are all dependents of God. They're all dependents of God. The Prophet continues, فَأَحَبُّهُمْ إِلَى اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ أَنْفَعُهُمْ لِعِيَالِهِ. The most loved of those in the eyes of God are the most of benefit to the people. The most loved of the people in the sight of God are those who give the most benefit, are those who are most beneficial to others, serving others, helping others. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves and likes. Obviously for the sake of God, you sacrifice for the sake of God. This was what Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam did. This was what was documented, preserved in the Quran, which will be recited for the rest of the life of this dunya, where Allah says, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. We feed you, the orphan, the needy, the captive. We feed you for the sake of God. We're not expecting any thanks. We're not expecting any reward from you. We seek it from God. It doesn't matter if anyone saw what I did. I don't care. As long as Allah is seeing, that's sufficient. That's very sufficient. So this is an attitude that we should have, and that is knowing what to sacrifice for the sake of God. You can't say, for example, I want to sacrifice my afterlife for the afterlife of my brothers. Meaning, I don't mind going to corruption, I don't mind doing injustice, so that I can establish justice for my brothers and sisters to live in a just life. No. You can't sacrifice your afterlife for what you perceive to be the afterlife of others. But yes, you can sacrifice things that are material in this world for the sake of others. Yes. So, what I want to talk about now is how individualism meaning that you actually end up prioritizing what? Prioritizing these material things that you own, prioritizing your own self, your own interest in this dunya at the expense of the interest of the public, the interest of the society, the interest of the faith and the message. This is what I'll be, inshallah, talking about. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So, individualism, why does it kill? I'll mention a few examples to appreciate that we need to be aware of the bigger picture when we make decisions. Obviously, my examples will be from what we learn in Ashura, what we learned in Karbala, what happened then and there. Now that we are still in the season of the beginning of Muharram. I'll mention a few instances which I mentioned to some of you at the Husayniyah, but it's good to share with the other brothers and sisters. If we look at what happened in Kufa, Imam al-Hussein sent his messenger Muslim bin Aqil to Kufa to assess the situation. To Imam al-Hussein, there was 18,000 letters that arrived at the Imam al-Hussein when he was in Mecca. People of Kufa, they were saying, "Oh Imam, come to us. We are here to support you. We are thousands of people to support you." Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. So Imam sent Muslim bin Aqil. At some point in time, Muslim bin Aqil realized that what I have to do now is that I have to revolt and show force. Because of what the new governor of Kufa was trying to do. Anyway, Muslim bin Aqil, it is said that he had with him around 4,000 people. 4,000 people, 4,000 soldiers that are willing to fight with him. And they surrounded the government palace, the center. And it is narrated in history that while Muslim had 4,000 people, inside the palace there was 30 people. Tens of people, let's say 50. 50 people inside the palace. 4,000 people outside with Muslim. But what ended up happening was that each person started to think of their own interest, saying, I have to listen to my father. My father is here. He came and told me, look, don't trouble yourself. Don't put yourself at risk. Leave. There is other people who are doing this job for you. You don't have to join. There's enough people. There's sufficient people. The mother would go and try to convince her son to return back home. The wife would go to her husband and so on. Everyone thought, what? Yeah, there is still 3,999 people other than me. So what? It's fine if I leave. And the calamity happened when all these 40,000 thought the same way, or 4,000 people. All of them, every single person of them, thought the same thing. They prioritized their own interest over the collective interest of the message. And then the calamity happened. And then Muslim bin Aqil was captured. And then what happened had happened. What was the root problem? Everyone thought, I am an exception. I have my own circumstances. Everyone else can do the job. What I want us, brothers and sisters, to remember today is that this attitude itself is a very risky one. Even if you know, look, there are other people in the community who are able to serve, for example, in the kitchen. So I don't have to stand up and say, I'm ready. You see that attitude? That's very dangerous. That's very dangerous. Because if every single person thinks the same, no one will end up being in the kitchen. No one will end up being donating. No one will end up being, for example, stepping forward for any kind of support. No one. That was the root of the calamity. The root of the calamity was that every person thought, I'm an exception and Allah will understand. You see that thought? Danger is in there. That was with Muslim bin Aqil. Another situation, actually on the day of Ashura, Imam al-Hussein was facing these people, 30,000 people facing him, 30,000 people, many of which they knew who Hussein was. If not most of them, if not all of them, they knew Hussein. Some of them, they have witnessed, they have heard the Prophet talking about Hussein. Some of them might have witnessed maybe Rasulullah treating Hussein in a very special way as he was a child. They've seen this. They know that Hussein is the son of Fatima. They know who Hussein is. They know that Hussein is the son of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Yet, what made them not move? If there was a few people who actually participated in the actual killing and the actual crime, what were the other thousands or maybe tens of thousands doing? What were they thinking? They were thinking, I can't do much. Because if I do, I will be prosecuted, I will be harassed, I have my interests to secure. I'm not in a position to support Hussein in any way. I'm not in a position to say no. The calamity happened. The calamity happened. And now we have the luxury of looking back 1400 years to judge and say those people were wrong. Tell me today, if you were with Hussein, now what we would do. That's where I'm focusing on this attitude. The attitude of, I am an exception. There is someone else to do the job. That's why this is very dangerous. And that's why we need to take this out of our lives right now. Because that was the root cause of the calamity that befell Hussein. The fact that every person was thinking, I'm an exception. Every person was thinking, the other person can do the job better than I can. The other person can volunteer to teach in madrasa. I can't. If everyone thinks like that, we will have no madrasa. We will have no community. We will have no center. And that's why if there is something that we need to learn from Ashura, it is this. That we need to let go of that attitude. We need to make sure that we become people who raise their hands the first, without even thinking twice, when any need calls. So these were some situations that tell us from history that actually individualism, it actually killed Hussein. On the other hand, there were other people who realized what the priority was. There were other people who realized that actually no, even if it means that I will be dead, not for example that I will give a few hours from my time to the community. No, even if it means that I'll be separated from my family, even if it means that I'll be dead, even if it means that I'll be killed violently. The companions of Hussein in the night of Ashura, the night before, we all heard what they said. They would say, oh Hussein, are you asking us to leave you in the night? Are you asking us to do that? Who do you think we are? Who do you think we are to leave you? If I know that I would be killed and then burnt and then brought back to life and then killed again and burnt and my ashes are spread and then brought back to life, and if this is done to me 1,000 times, Hussein, I would never leave you. And they knew that they brought their families with them, leaving their families to the unknown. Do you know what this means? Those who have families, they understand what this means. You're leaving your wife, your children to the unknown. Even worse than the unknown, the known oppression. Yazid, those people who were heartless, that didn't shake those people because they realized that the priority, the interest of the ummah is far greater than my own interest. If someone like Hussein said this, who am I to say I'm an exception? If someone like Hussein was happy to put his life down for the sake of the mission, for the sake of the message of Rasulullah, who am I to think I'm a special case? Hussein is responsible, but I am not. How does that work? This was the position of the companions at the night before Ashura, on that night. They understood the priorities. This was the position of whom? Because sometimes we might think, it's too late for me. I've done a lot of wrong. Yes, I've compromised my principles in the past. It's too late for me. The beauty about Karbala is that it depicted for us different situations to tell us you can save yourself even in the last moment. Hur was in that position. Can you tell me what is greater than actually causing Imam al-Hussein's army, or let me say, even restricting Hussein's movement? You shouldn't go back to Medina, you're not allowed. That's Hur. He was not allowing Hussein to go back to Medina. He was not allowing Hussein to change his direction. Ya akhi, I don't want to go to Kufa. Let me go somewhere else. No. You have to go to Kufa. You have to be escorted. And that man, in the last hour, he realized, okay, these people are here for a malicious intent. And I haven't signed up for this. He didn't say, well, it's too late for me now. It's too late for me. I've signed up. He seized that opportunity that he had, which was what? A few breaths that he had in his life. And he made sure that he makes it right. And he didn't think, I am an exception. So what, Hussein is going to be killed anyway. So if I did or didn't, how does it change things? Hussein will be dead anyway. This is what made these people Ashab al-Hussein. This is what made these people those who we send salam to. وَعَلَى أَصْحَابِ الْحُسَيْنِ in the salam. وَعَلَى أَصْحَابِ الْحُسَيْنِ. Hussein would say, I haven't seen people as loyal as these. I haven't. Hussein, who he has heard about how people supported Rasulullah in the hardest times. He would say, this is mind-blowing. So those people understood the priorities. Those people understood that they are responsible too. We mentioned last week Abbas, the position that Abbas had. The temptations on the last day, people would tell him, the army of Yazid, the messengers here and there, they would tell him, look, Abbas, you're from us, you're from our family. You're our nephew, you and your brothers, step aside. You have safety. It was offered to him. But he understood that, look, we're not individualistic people. We're not individualistic people. That's not how we think. You're misunderstanding who we are. You give us safety while Hussein is not given safety. We don't need that safety of yours. Safety of God is greater than the safety you're offering us. This is what these people were. Every Ashura we remember their tragedy. Every single Ashura we remember it. But what is changing in us every single Ashura? After the 12th day, after the 11th day, after the 10th day of Muharram, until the next verse of Muharram, what is really changing in us? What I'm trying to say today is, if there is one thing that needs to change, it is this. That we need to stop thinking that I'm an exception. It's okay, there's someone else to do the job. No. It's okay, there's someone else to step up, for example, for the next executive committee. We know that no executive committee will remain forever, right? 1 year, 2 years, I don't know, maybe the current one will remain maybe for a few months. Okay, that's a challenge that is coming this year, by the way. That's a challenge that we all know is coming. Other challenges, we need teachers at madrasa. Every madrasa we have. We always need people to support. We need people who teach Quran. Why do I think it is fine that I think it's okay, I'm an exception because I'm busy at work? Why? Why is it okay if you say it, but it is bad if the people who fought Hussein did it and said it? Why? I want to understand truly. I truly want to understand. Why do we think it is okay? Because I'm old? Is that an excuse? Habib. Because I'm poor? See the people around Hussein. Because I'm busy? I have a business to run? See Zuhair. See, Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, he had a business to run as well. So what is it that makes me think that it's okay if I say, no, I don't have time for this Sunday madrasa. I don't have time or the quality to actually be on the executive committee. I don't have time to run the Quran program. I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. Brothers, sisters, this Ashura, it is what we remember, that we need to change that attitude. I tell this to myself first, by the way. Inshallah, I'm not directing this to anyone here. It is a reminder. فَذَكِّرْ إِن نَفَعَتِ الذِّكْرَ فَذَكِّرْ إِنَّ الذِّكْرَ تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Abbas understood this. Abbas understood this at the time where he was in the water. He was tasting the coldness of the water. Abbas understood this where he was this close to drinking. But he thought, no, I'm not that person. I'm not an exception. I'm not an exception. When the mission is in danger, I'm not an exception. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, to help us understand our priorities in our lives, in all the dimensions of our lives. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wal asr. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu as-salihat. Wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك. اللهم وصل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. وصل على الصديقة الكبرى فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد صل على سبطي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة أجمعين. صل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي. حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. Brothers, sisters, if I may ask you please to step forward, try to fill the spaces at the front lines. May Allah bless you, inshaAllah. Ibadallah, أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله والورع عن محارمه. My dear brothers, my dear sisters, the servants of God, I advise myself and yourselves to observe taqwa, to be conscious of God, to be mindful of God all the time, to prioritize what Allah wills over what we desire at all time, and to stay away from what Allah has prohibited. I'll finish with this, inshaAllah. Some of the practices that we do to help us let go of the individualistic spirit is what? Is what we display on the day of Ashura. On the day of Ashura, the 10th of Muharram, it is a day where we actually deprioritize everything in our lives, and we keep the top priority being what? Showing love for Hussein, grieving for Hussein, showing this true sadness. Because this is one way that we are actually displaying love for Hussein. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would say, Husaynun minni wa ana min Hussein. Hussein is from me and I am from Hussein. Ahabba Allahu man ahabba Husayna. Allah loves the one who loves Hussein. Allah loves the one who loves Hussein. This is one way that we manifest that this Hussein is one that we love. The one that we missed, the one that we lost 1400 years ago on that day. On that day we commemorate the loved one that we lost. When any one of us loses a dear one, a close family member maybe, someone dear, how would they behave on that day that they lose them? Would they behave, for example, in a way that they wear whatever they want, they go and party, or they watch TV, or they go to this birthday party, or they go on a vacation or so? I doubt it. I doubt it, because that wouldn't be a display of love. That wouldn't be a display of love. It is the Banu Umayyah who actually started this practice of what? Celebrating this day. And later it became so embedded and so camouflaged under different titles that this day is the day where this prophet was saved, and that prophet was, the dua of this prophet was accepted, and so on, so that they celebrate this day, this particular day. That's very sad. That's a calamity in the ummah actually. So this is what we do. This is why on the day of Ashura we emphasize that don't treat it as a vacation. Don't treat it as a holiday. Even if you take a day off work and off school, it is not a vacation. It is a day where we are actually invited to rearrange the priorities in our lives. It is a day that we are required, or we're invited to actually think about the position of your life to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the position of Allah in your life. Allah being the message of which was protected by the sacrifices of Hussein. This is why we spend that day on grief, and in sadness, and in attending Aza. If we are not able to attend Aza for too long, it's okay to go and study about the faith, to go and study about Imam Hussein, read a book. Book that day to read a book about Hussein alayhi salam. Understand what happened in Karbala. This is one way that we are training ourselves to stop being individualistic, to actually prioritizing, to understand that, look, we are people who are soldiers on this mission of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to spread his message, as Hussein alayhi salam did. These are ways that we show this, that we prioritize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mentioned examples. Yes, it is not only shown in, for example, donations or stepping up for responsibilities. This attitude can be shown in different places in your lives. And it is up to you to judge and to decide how to display it, how to manifest it in your circumstances and in your position. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, to help us as He helps the good ones, the righteous ones, to achieve salvation and to please Him, inshallah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وآل